The black evening gown was still burning when Gabriel Moretti entered the ballroom. Flames crawled across the silk like hungry fingers. They consumed the fitted waist, the hand-sewn roses, and the long train that Mia Collins had spent 3 months creating. Smoke rose toward the crystal chandeliers of the Moretti mansion, turning the golden light gray. 20 servants stood frozen against the walls. 2 armed guards held Mia near the ballroom doors. Isabella Vale stood beside the fireplace in a white engagement gown, watching the black dress collapse into glowing ashes. Mia had one hand pressed against her mouth. A thin line of blood ran across her other palm where she had tried to pull the gown from the fire. Her beautiful round face was pale beneath the smoke. Tears filled her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Gabriel did not look at Isabella. He did not look at the guards. He walked directly toward the fire. His black suit was wet from the storm outside. Rainwater slid from his dark hair onto the sharp line of his jaw. Every person in the room knew what his silence meant. Gabriel Moretti was most dangerous when he did not raise his voice. He reached into the ashes with his bare hand. One of his men stepped forward. Gabriel ignored him. He lifted a charred piece of silk from the floor. Most of the fabric had turned black, but several golden letters remained visible along the inner lining. Power may protect a man from his enemies. Only love can protect him from himself. Gabriel stopped breathing. The ballroom disappeared around him. For one terrible second, he was no longer the feared head of the Moretti family. He was a grieving son standing beside a closed coffin, waiting for a father who would never speak again. His fingers tightened around the burned fabric. Mia watched recognition move across his face. It was not confusion. It was pain. Gabriel slowly turned toward her. "Where did these words come from?" Mia tried to answer. But one of the guards tightened his grip on her arm. Gabriel looked at the hand touching her. "Release her." The guard immediately stepped away. Mia lowered her injured hand. She could feel every eye in the room on her. But Gabriel was the only person she saw. She said she found the words inside an old piece of fabric from the family collection. She explained that the writing appeared to belong to Lorenzo Moretti. Gabriel's father, Isabella, gave a cold laugh. She claimed Mia had invented the entire story to gain attention. She said the designer had become obsessed with Gabriel and had hidden a false message inside the gown to manipulate him. Gabriel looked down at the burned letters again. He recognized the phrasing. He recognized the small curl of the letter R that Mia had copied into the embroidery. He recognized the words his father had once spoken when Gabriel was young enough to believe power could solve everything. Gabriel raised his eyes toward Isabella. He did not ask why the dress had been burned. He did not ask how much it had cost. His voice remained calm. "Who destroyed the final words of my father?" The silence that followed was more frightening than a gunshot. Isabella lost the smile on her face. Mia understood in that moment that the gown had never been only a dress, and the man staring at the ashes had never been only a client. 3 months earlier, Mia Collins had been standing barefoot in the back room of her small Brooklyn design studio, trying to stop water from dripping through the ceiling with an empty coffee container. Her studio occupied the ground floor of an old brick building between a bakery and a closed bookstore. The front windows displayed 3 dresses that no one had purchased. The sewing machines were older than Mia. The heater worked only when it wanted to. Mia loved every inch of it. The studio was the first place that had ever belonged to her. She had built the business after leaving a luxury fashion house where an executive had told her that women with bodies like hers should understand clothing, but should never represent it. Mia had smiled during that meeting. Then she had walked out with a cardboard box containing her scissors, her sketchbooks, and the measuring tape that had belonged to her grandmother. 6 years later, Mia still designed for women who were usually asked to disappear. Women who were told to choose darker colors. Women who were told not to wear silk, not to show their arms, and not to expect beautiful things to be made for them. Mia made those beautiful things anyway. That rainy morning, she was repairing the ceiling when three black vehicles stopped outside her studio. Men in dark suits stepped onto the sidewalk. The customers inside the bakery immediately moved away from the windows. Mia stared at the vehicles and wondered which criminal had mistaken her address for somewhere important. The studio door opened. A tall man entered first. He had silver at his temples and the controlled posture of someone who had spent his life protecting dangerous people. He introduced himself as Marco De Luca. Mia knew the name. Almost everyone in New York knew the name. Marco was the closest advisor to Gabriel Moretti, the man newspapers called a businessman and frightened men called something else. Mia placed the coffee container on the counter and asked what he wanted. Marco looked around at the hanging fabrics, the unfinished dresses, and the water stains spreading across the ceiling. He said the Moretti family required a designer capable of restoring old fabric without replacing its history. Mia asked why they had come to her. Marco removed a folded magazine page from his coat. It contained an article about a wedding dress Mia had restored after it survived a house fire. The article included a photograph of Mia standing beside the bride. The writer had described Mia as a designer who believed damaged things should not be hidden. Marco told her Gabriel's mother had saved the article. Mia felt something soften inside her. She had never met Elena Moretti. The woman had died several years earlier, but people still spoke of her elegance and her charity work. Marco placed a black card on the counter. He said the Moretti family wanted Mia to design the main evening gown for an engagement gala. She would also examine fabric from the family collection and determine whether any pieces could be incorporated into the design. Mia stared at the card. The payment would save her studio. It would repair the roof, replace the machines, and pay the debt she had been quietly carrying since her mother became ill. It would also place her inside the home of one of the most feared men in America. Mia looked at Marco. She asked whether refusing would be dangerous. Marco almost smiled. He said refusing would be expensive, but not dangerous. Mia picked up the card. She agreed to attend one meeting. The Moretti mansion stood beyond iron gates on a private estate overlooking the Hudson River. Mia arrived 2 days later in a simple green dress and a wool coat she had owned for 10 years. Her nervousness increased when the guards searched her bag and removed every metal object except her sewing needles. Inside, the mansion was silent and breathtaking. Dark wood covered the walls. Marble floors reflected enormous chandeliers. Paintings of unsmiling men watched from golden frames. Mia expected someone to guide her to a workroom. Instead, she was taken into a library where Gabriel Moretti stood near a tall window with his back toward her. He was broader than he appeared in photographs. He wore a black shirt with the sleeves folded to his forearms. A dark watch circled one wrist. There were no visible weapons, but the room felt full of danger. Marco announced her name. Gabriel turned. His eyes moved across her face, then down to the portfolio against her chest. Mia waited for the familiar expression men sometimes gave her. The quick judgment, the polite dismissal, the assumption that beauty and talent could not exist in the same full body. Gabriel showed none of it. He looked at her as if she were a locked door and he had not yet decided whether to open it or break it. Mia held his gaze. He asked whether she understood discretion. Mia said she understood fabric. Something changed in his eyes. It was not amusement. It was interest. Gabriel walked toward the table where several boxes had been placed. He explained that his engagement gala would take place in 12 weeks. His fiancée had selected designers for her own clothing, but his late mother had requested that one gown be created from material connected to the Moretti family. Mia asked who would wear it. Gabriel said the dress would be displayed during the gala as part of a memorial collection. Afterward, it would be auctioned for a children's hospital supported by his mother. Mia touched the first box. Inside was black silk. The material was old but beautifully preserved. Small sections were damaged by moisture. Another box contained lace from Italy. A third contained the remains of a formal coat. Mia carefully lifted the coat. The lining felt heavier than it should have. Gabriel watched her hands. Mia asked whether she could remove several stitches. He told her to do whatever was necessary. She opened a narrow seam near the inside pocket. A folded piece of paper slid onto the table. Gabriel became completely still. Marco reached for the paper. Gabriel stopped him with one look. Mia stepped back. The paper was yellow and fragile. Several lines had faded. One corner carried a dark stain. Gabriel unfolded it slowly. His face revealed nothing as he read. Then he folded the letter and placed it inside his pocket. Mia asked whether he still wanted her to use the coat. Gabriel said no. His answer was immediate. Mia looked at the open seam. She could see another piece of paper inside. Before she could speak, the library door opened. Isabella Vale entered with the confidence of someone who believed every room belonged to her. She was tall, thin, and beautiful in a polished way that made her seem carved from ice. Diamonds rested against her throat. Her cream dress matched the mansion walls. She greeted Gabriel with a kiss near his cheek. Gabriel did not move toward her. Isabella looked at Mia. Her smile remained in place, but her eyes sharpened. She asked whether Mia was the seamstress. Mia said she was the designer. Isabella touched the black silk with one finger and said it looked old. Mia replied that old fabric was often more valuable because it carried the memory of everyone who had touched it. Gabriel looked at Mia again. Isabella noticed. That was the first moment jealousy entered the room. Mia was allowed to take the fabric to a secured workroom on the estate. But the old coat remained locked inside Gabriel's private study. For the next several weeks, she traveled to the mansion every morning. She sketched in silence while guards walked through the halls. She measured damaged sections of silk and created patterns that allowed the strongest pieces to support the weakest ones. Gabriel rarely spoke to her, yet he appeared everywhere. Some mornings he stood near the workroom door while discussing business with Marco. Some afternoons he entered without warning and watched Mia pin fabric onto the dress form. He never complimented the design. He only asked questions. Why had she chosen a high collar? Why had she placed the roses near the left side? Why did she refuse to replace the damaged silk? Mia answered honestly. The collar represented dignity. The roses rested above the heart. The damaged silk remained because a memorial should not pretend loss had never happened. Gabriel studied her after that answer. His gaze stayed on her long enough to make her fingers unsteady. She disliked that he could affect her without touching her. She disliked even more that a part of her waited for him to return. One evening, Mia remained at the estate after a storm flooded the road leading back to Brooklyn. The mansion lost power for several minutes. Emergency lights filled the halls with a dim red glow. Mia walked toward the kitchen, searching for tea. She heard voices inside Gabriel's study. The door was not fully closed. Isabella's father, Victor Vale, was speaking. Victor said the engagement had already prevented one war. He warned Gabriel that delaying the wedding would create questions about loyalty. Gabriel answered that loyalty built on threats was only another form of captivity. Victor laughed. He said captivity had kept both families alive. Mia stepped away before she heard more. A hand closed around her wrist. She turned sharply. Gabriel stood behind her. He had approached without sound. His eyes moved toward the study door, then back to her face. Mia expected anger. Instead, he asked whether she had heard anything that frightened her. Mia said she had heard enough to understand that his engagement was not romantic. Gabriel did not release her wrist. His thumb rested above her pulse. He said romance was a luxury for people whose families did not bury enemies. Mia looked at his hand. She asked whether he always grabbed women who discovered uncomfortable truths. He immediately released her. The loss of contact felt more intimate than the touch. Gabriel stepped closer. He said most people lied when they were afraid of him. Mia told him she was afraid of him. His jaw tightened. She continued. Fear did not require obedience. For the first time, Gabriel smiled. It was small and dangerous. Then the lights returned. The moment vanished. Mia went to the kitchen alone, but she could still feel the warmth of his fingers around her wrist. The next morning, Gabriel entered the workroom carrying the old coat. He placed it on the table. He told Mia to open the remaining seam. She carefully removed the thread. A second sheet of paper was hidden inside. Gabriel stood close enough that his shoulder almost touched hers. The first page contained a farewell from Lorenzo Moretti to his son. The second page was unfinished. Several sentences ended without explanation. Lorenzo had written that power would protect Gabriel from enemies, but only love could protect him from himself. He had written that a man should not marry to end a war if the marriage created another war inside his own home. The final visible line mentioned the Vale family. The rest had been damaged by water. Gabriel took the second page. His face became cold again. Mia understood that the letter was more than a final message. It was a warning. She asked whether Lorenzo had known about the engagement. Gabriel said the engagement had first been proposed before the death of his father. Mia asked whether he believed the Vale family had something to do with that death. Gabriel looked toward the locked door. Then he told her Lorenzo had been killed when a car exploded outside a restaurant in Manhattan. Everyone blamed a rival family. Gabriel had spent years destroying the people responsible. Mia heard the emptiness beneath his words. She asked whether destroying them had brought his father back. Gabriel turned toward her. No one had ever asked him that question. Mia saw anger enter his expression. She also saw pain. He said she should focus on the gown. Mia turned back to the fabric. She knew she had crossed a line, but she did not apologize. Gabriel reached the door, then stopped. He said no. Mia looked at him. He said revenge had brought nothing back. Then he left. That night, Mia began embroidering the words from the letter into the inner lining of the gown. She did not ask permission. She did not plan to display them. The message would remain hidden against the fabric, close to the body of the dress where only someone searching carefully would ever find it. It was not meant to manipulate Gabriel. It was meant to finish what the damaged coat had protected for years. A private memorial. A secret between a father and his son. Gabriel discovered what she was doing 1 week later. He entered while Mia was guiding golden thread through the black lining. She quickly covered the words with another section of silk. Gabriel noticed. He walked toward her. Mia remained between him and the dress. He asked what she was hiding. She said the gown was unfinished. He reached around her. His chest nearly touched her shoulder. Mia caught his wrist before he could lift the fabric. The room became silent. No one touched Gabriel without permission. 2 guards near the door immediately moved forward. Gabriel raised one hand. They stopped. He looked down at Mia, fingers around his wrist. She released him slowly. She told him the lining was private until the dress was complete. Gabriel asked whether she often ordered clients away from their own clothing. Mia said only the impatient ones. He leaned closer. His voice lowered. He said patience had never been considered one of his virtues. Mia could feel his breath near her temple. She refused to move. She told him he would have to learn. Their eyes met. Something passed between them that neither could pretend was professional. Gabriel lifted one hand. For one suspended second, Mia thought he would touch her cheek. His fingers stopped before reaching her skin. Then his phone rang. He stepped away. The distance returned. But the moment stayed inside the room. Mia watched him leave and understood that Gabriel Moretti was beginning to want something he did not trust himself to take. Isabella understood it too. The next afternoon, she arrived without warning. She dismissed the guards and walked around the dress while Mia worked. Isabella said the gown was beautiful. Mia thanked her. Isabella asked whether Gabriel had been spending time in the workroom. Mia said Gabriel visited whenever he had questions. Isabella smiled. She said men like Gabriel never asked questions unless they had already decided what answer they wanted. Mia placed her needle on the table. She told Isabella that the gown was not a threat to her engagement. Isabella moved closer. She said the gown was not the threat. Mia was. Mia almost laughed. She reminded Isabella that Gabriel was a powerful man, capable of making his own choices. Isabella's expression hardened. She said powerful men did not make choices. They created consequences. Then she touched the waist of the gown. She told Mia that Gabriel required a wife who understood bloodlines, alliances, and obedience. Not a lonely designer who imagined that a few long looks made her important. The words struck deeper than Mia wanted to admit. Mia had spent years surviving polished insults from people who believed her body made her invisible. She had learned how to remain calm. She told Isabella that if Gabriel truly wanted obedience, he would not look so miserable whenever Isabella entered a room. For 1 second, Isabella's face revealed pure hatred. Then she smiled again. She warned Mia to complete the gown and disappear. Mia watched her leave. She should have listened. Instead, she remained at the mansion. The danger became impossible to ignore 2 nights later. Mia was leaving the estate when a motorcycle followed her car through the rain. At first, she thought it was a stranger seeking shelter from the storm. Then the rider raised a gun. A bullet shattered the rear window. Mia screamed and pulled the steering wheel. Her car struck the curb and spun across the road. The motorcycle came closer. Another shot hit the door beside her shoulder. Black vehicles appeared behind the motorcycle. The road exploded with light. Gabriel's vehicle struck the motorcycle from the side. The rider fell across the wet pavement. Before Mia could move, Gabriel opened her damaged door. Rain poured over him. Blood marked his knuckles. His face held a level of rage that frightened her more than the gunman. He pulled Mia from the car and pressed her against his chest. Another shot echoed from the trees. Gabriel turned and covered her body with his. His men fired back. Mia felt his heart beating beneath her cheek. It was fast. Not from fear for himself, from fear for her. Gabriel lifted her into his arms and carried her toward the armored vehicle while bullets struck the road around them. Mia gripped his shoulders. She saw blood spreading across his shirt. She asked whether he had been shot. Gabriel placed her inside the vehicle. He said the blood was not his. The doors closed. The world became dark and quiet. Gabriel sat opposite her. Breathing hard, Mia realized he had followed her. She asked how he had known she was in danger. Gabriel looked toward Marco. Marco remained silent. Mia understood. There had been surveillance. Gabriel admitted that he had ordered men to watch her after the letter was discovered. Anger burned through her fear. She asked whether he believed she was a suspect. Gabriel said he had not known what she was. Mia moved toward the door. Gabriel caught her hand. The vehicle was still moving. He told her someone had just tried to kill her. Mia demanded to know whether the attack had happened because of him. Gabriel did not answer. That was enough. She pulled her hand free. She said she wanted to return to her apartment. Gabriel said no. The single word filled the vehicle. Mia looked at him. She said he did not own her. Gabriel leaned forward. Rainwater moved down his face. His eyes were dark with controlled violence. He said someone had fired at her on a road controlled by the Moretti family until he found the person responsible. She would sleep behind walls, strong enough to stop bullets. Mia said he could not imprison her for protection. Gabriel replied that he could protect her without her permission. Mia slapped him. Marco looked away. The entire vehicle became silent. Gabriel slowly turned his face back toward her. Mia expected fury. Instead, he touched his jaw and watched her with a fascination that felt more dangerous than anger. She told him never to confuse protection with possession. Gabriel said he had never confused them. Then his gaze dropped to her mouth. He said possession was far more honest. Mia stopped breathing. Gabriel leaned back before either of them crossed the line. The vehicle continued toward Manhattan. Mia was taken to the penthouse above the Moretti headquarters. It was surrounded by reinforced windows, hidden cameras, and guards who spoke into small radios whenever she entered a hallway. Gabriel gave her the largest guest room. She refused to sleep. At midnight, she found him standing alone on the rooftop terrace. The rain had stopped. Manhattan glittered beneath them. Helicopters moved between towers in the distance. Gabriel held a glass but had not touched it. Mia wrapped her coat around herself. She asked who had attacked her. Gabriel said the gunman carried no identification. The motorcycle was stolen. The weapon had been purchased through a network connected to the Vale family. Mia felt cold. She asked whether Isabella wanted her dead. Gabriel said evidence and truth were not always the same thing. Mia studied him. She asked whether he trusted his fiancée. Gabriel looked at the city. He said trust was not part of their engagement. Mia asked why he intended to marry her. Gabriel told her the Moretti and Vale families had spent decades fighting over ports, casinos, construction companies, and political influence. The engagement had stopped the bloodshed. Breaking it without proof of betrayal would begin another war. Mia said marriage should not be used as a weapon. Gabriel answered that every valuable thing could become a weapon. Mia moved beside him. She asked whether that included love. His eyes shifted toward her. He said love was the most dangerous weapon because people offered their hearts willingly. Mia felt sadness beneath his calm voice. She said perhaps his father had written the letter because he wanted Gabriel to believe love could be something else. Gabriel looked away. He told her not to speak about his father as if she had known him. Mia accepted the warning. Then she told him she knew what it meant to lose someone while words remained unfinished. Her mother had died before Mia could admit how frightened she was of being alone. Gabriel turned back toward her. The city wind moved through her brown hair. He raised one hand, then stopped. Mia remembered the unfinished touch in the workroom. This time she stepped closer. His fingers touched her cheek. The contact was gentle, almost uncertain. No one would have believed Gabriel Moretti could touch anything that carefully. Mia closed her eyes. For one brief moment, the danger surrounding them disappeared. Then an explosion shook the building. Glass shattered behind them. Gabriel pulled Mia to the ground and covered her with his body. Alarms screamed through the penthouse. Smoke rose from the lower floors. Armed men entered the terrace. Gabriel reached beneath his coat and fired before they crossed the doorway. The first attacker fell. Mia crawled behind a stone wall. Gabriel moved through the gunfire with terrifying calm. He protected her position while Marco and the guards fought their way onto the terrace. One attacker reached Mia from the side. She grabbed a metal chair and struck his wounded arm. The gun fell. Gabriel shot the man before he could reach her. Then silence returned. 3 bodies lay across the terrace. Gabriel stood between them and Mia. Blood covered his hand. He looked at her as if the rest of the world had vanished. He walked toward her. Mia saw the bullet wound near his ribs. She caught him before he fell. The Moretti doctors treated Gabriel inside a private hospital floor before dawn. The bullet had passed through muscle without damaging his organs. Mia sat outside the operating room with his blood drying on her dress. Marco stood beside the window. He told her Gabriel had not personally entered a gunfight in years. Mia said Gabriel had protected her. Marco looked at her. He said Gabriel had done more than that. The security team had ordered him to leave the terrace. He had refused because Mia was still outside. Mia looked down at the blood on her hands. She asked whether Gabriel's father had been the same way. Marco became quiet. He said Lorenzo had loved his family fiercely, but he had trusted the wrong people. Mia asked whether Marco knew what the damaged letter had said. Marco denied it too quickly. Before Mia could question him, a doctor opened the door. Gabriel was awake. He refused to let anyone enter until Mia came inside. She found him lying beneath white sheets, his face pale with pain. He looked at her blood-stained dress. He asked whether she had been hurt. Mia shook her head. She moved closer to the bed. Anger returned now that fear no longer controlled her. She asked why men had entered his home. Gabriel said someone inside the organization had disabled the security system. Mia asked whether that person had also known she was there. Gabriel's expression changed. Yes. The attack had not only targeted him, it had targeted them together. Mia crossed her arms. She told him she would leave New York. Gabriel tried to sit up. Pain tightened his face. He said she would not. Mia told him she would not spend her life waiting for someone to shoot through a window. Gabriel reached for her hand. She stepped back. The rejection affected him more than the wound. His voice became quieter. He said leaving would not make her safe. Whoever wanted the letter destroyed would follow her. Mia asked whether he wanted the letter protected or her. Gabriel stared at her. The answer frightened him. Mia saw it. She turned toward the door. Gabriel said her name. She stopped. He told her he did not know when protecting her had stopped being strategy. Mia looked over her shoulder. Gabriel continued. He said he only knew that, when the gunman moved toward her, every future without her became unacceptable. The confession was not tender. It was dark and raw. It sounded like a man discovering his own obsession and hating himself for needing it. Mia returned to the bed. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers. Neither of them spoke again. Mia stayed beside him until morning. When Gabriel returned to the mansion, he ordered the engagement gala delayed. Isabella arrived that afternoon with her father and 6 armed guards. Mia watched from the top of the staircase as the argument filled the entrance hall. Isabella accused Gabriel of humiliating her family. Victor warned that investors, politicians, and allied families had already traveled to New York. Gabriel said the gala would proceed 1 week later. But the wedding date would not be announced. Isabella asked whether the designer had influenced him. Gabriel looked toward the staircase. Mia wished he had not. Every person in the hall followed his gaze. Isabella saw Mia wearing one of Gabriel's shirts beneath a borrowed coat because her clothing had been destroyed during the attack. The expression on Isabella's face became perfectly still. Gabriel ordered Marco to take Mia to the workroom. Mia did not move. She said she was tired of being removed whenever powerful people discussed her life. Victor looked at her with open contempt. He asked whether she understood who she was speaking to. Mia walked down the stairs. She said she understood exactly. She faced Isabella. Mia asked whether Isabella had sent the motorcycle. Isabella slapped her. Gabriel moved before Mia could react. He caught Isabella's wrist. The sound of guns being raised filled the hall. Moretti guards aimed at Veil guards. Victor warned Gabriel to release his daughter. Gabriel looked at Isabella. His voice remained calm. He said no one would touch Mia again. Isabella stared at his hand around her wrist. She asked whether he intended to begin a war over a dressmaker. Gabriel released her. He stepped between Isabella and Mia. He said the war would not be over Mia's profession. It would be over anyone foolish enough to believe her life held less value than their own. Mia looked at his back. A strange warmth entered her chest. It was not safety. Gabriel could never offer ordinary safety. It was something more dangerous. The certainty that he would destroy anyone who tried to break her. Victor ordered his guards to leave. Before following them, Isabella leaned close to Mia. She promised that Gabriel would eventually choose his empire. Mia watched her go. She feared Isabella was right. The gown was nearly complete when Gabriel returned to the workroom that night. Mia had added hidden pockets inside the lining to protect the embroidered message. Gabriel closed the door. He asked whether she had copied every surviving word from the letter. Mia said yes. She showed him the golden embroidery. Gabriel read the message in silence. Power may protect a man from his enemies. Only love can protect him from himself. A marriage created by fear will never create peace. Do not surrender your heart to people who demand your obedience. The Veil family believes blood gives them the right to rule beside us. The greatest betrayal will not come from them. It will come from the man standing closest to you. The final line made Gabriel freeze. Mia had reconstructed it from faint impressions on the paper. She could not know whether every word was exact, but the meaning was clear. The greatest betrayal would come from the man closest to Gabriel. Gabriel looked through the glass wall toward Marco, who stood in the hall. Mia followed his gaze. She remembered how Marco had reacted at the hospital. She asked whether Gabriel trusted him. Gabriel said Marco had protected him since childhood. Mia reminded him that his father had trusted someone too. Gabriel's face hardened. He asked whether she believed Marco had arranged the attacks. Mia said she believed fear could make innocent people appear guilty and powerful people appear loyal. Gabriel turned away. Mia touched his arm. He looked down at her hand. She said the letter did not tell him who betrayed his father. It only warned him not to let grief decide before truth arrived. Gabriel looked at her. He moved closer until her back touched the work table. His hands settled on either side of her. Mia could feel the heat of him. He asked why she was never afraid to challenge him. Mia said she was always afraid. Gabriel lowered his face. He asked why she still did it. Mia answered that fear might explain silence, but it did not excuse it. His gaze moved to her lips. Mia waited. Gabriel almost kissed her. Then he stopped. He said if he touched her now, he would not know how to stop. Mia's heart pounded. She told him she had not asked him to stop. The control inside Gabriel finally broke. He kissed her. The kiss began with restraint and ended with hunger. His hand moved to her waist. He pulled her against him as if he had been denying the need for months instead of weeks. Mia gripped his shirt. Every warning inside her disappeared beneath the force of his mouth. Then the workroom door opened. Isabella stood in the doorway. Gabriel did not immediately release Mia. That made the humiliation worse. Isabella looked at the unfinished gown. Then, at Gabriel, hand around Mia's waist. Her face lost all color. She told Gabriel that Victor had called an emergency meeting. Gabriel stepped away from Mia. His expression returned to cold control. He ordered Isabella to wait outside. She smiled. She said she had already waited long enough. Then she left. Mia touched her swollen lips. She asked Gabriel whether he regretted kissing her. He looked at her with dark intensity. He said regret would have been easier. Then he followed Isabella. The emergency meeting revealed that 3 Moretti warehouses had been attacked. The evidence pointed toward a rival family from Boston. But Gabriel believed the attacks had been arranged to force him into announcing the wedding date. He ordered increased security and prepared to travel to Boston. Mia told him she would return to her studio. Gabriel refused. She reminded him that the gown was almost finished and the gala was approaching. Gabriel said the mansion was no longer secure. Mia asked where he expected her to go. He told her she would travel with him. The following morning, a convoy of black vehicles left New York. Mia sat beside Gabriel in the rear seat of an armored car. Snow covered the roads as they approached Boston. Gabriel spent most of the journey speaking with men through an encrypted phone. Mia worked on a small section of embroidery resting across her lap. His hand remained near hers without touching it. The tension between them felt alive. At a private hotel near the harbor, Gabriel placed Mia in the room beside his. She discovered that the connecting door could only be locked from his side. She entered his room and demanded a key. Gabriel stood before a mirror, removing his shoulder holster. He asked whether she planned to escape through the hallway. Mia said she planned to sleep, without wondering whether he could enter whenever he wished. Gabriel placed the gun on the table. He told her that if he entered, she would know. Mia disliked the heat that moved through her. She asked whether that was a promise or a threat. Gabriel stepped closer. He said it was restraint. Before Mia could answer, gunfire shattered the hotel windows. Gabriel pulled her behind the bed. Bullets tore through the curtains. Marco and the guards entered from the hall. The attackers were positioned on the roof across the harbor. Gabriel ordered the entire floor evacuated, Smoke filled the corridor when an explosive struck the stairwell. Gabriel covered Mia's mouth with a wet cloth and guided her through the dark. A section of the ceiling collapsed. Gabriel pushed her aside. The debris struck his shoulder and forced him to one knee. Mia refused to leave him. Together they reached the service elevator and descended into the underground garage. The attackers were waiting. Gabriel placed Mia behind a concrete pillar. He told her to remain there. Mia caught his coat. She begged him not to walk into the open. Gabriel touched her face. He said he had spent his entire life walking into danger. Mia told him that did not mean he always had to walk alone. For 1 second, Gabriel looked less like a mafia boss and more like a man terrified of loving someone he could lose. Then he kissed her forehead and entered the gunfire. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. It felt like hours. Mia watched Gabriel move between vehicles while his men surrounded the attackers. When one gunman aimed at Gabriel back, Mia saw him before anyone else. She shouted. Gabriel turned and fired. The final attacker fell. Gabriel walked toward Mia through drifting smoke. His black coat was torn. Blood marked his cheek. He reached her and placed both hands around her face. He asked whether she had been hit. Mia shook her head. Then she held him. The guards looked away as Gabriel wrapped his arms around her. The embrace revealed more than a kiss could have. He did not hold her like a possession. He held her like the last living thing in a ruined world. One attacker survived. During questioning, he admitted that the order had come from someone inside the Moretti organization. The payment had been approved through an account controlled by Marco. Gabriel returned to New York with betrayal burning behind his silence. Marco was arrested before the convoy reached the mansion. Mia found Gabriel alone in his study after midnight. The old coat lay across the desk. Gabriel held the letter in one hand. He said Marco had been beside his father on the day he died. Marco had also selected the restaurant, changed the vehicle route, and controlled the security system during the penthouse attack. Mia asked whether Marco had confessed. Gabriel said no. She asked whether the evidence could have been planted. Gabriel looked at her with anger. He said every betrayal appeared impossible before proof arrived. Mia moved closer. She told him proof was not only a collection of convenient facts. Gabriel warned her not to defend Marco. Mia said she was defending Gabriel from making another decision through grief. He swept the glass from his desk. It shattered against the wall. Mia did not move. Gabriel stared at her. Then his anger collapsed into exhaustion. He said everyone he trusted eventually became a weapon used against him. Mia touched his face. She told him she was not asking for his trust because she had earned it. She was asking him not to destroy it before she had the chance. Gabriel closed his eyes. He leaned into her hand. The gesture broke something inside Mia. She kissed him. This time there was no interruption. Gabriel lifted her onto the desk and held her as if he had spent years starving for tenderness. Yet even in his hunger, he waited. He looked at her for permission. Mia drew him closer. The night became a confession neither of them could speak. Later, Gabriel held her against his chest while snow began falling beyond the windows. He admitted that the engagement had never been intended to become a marriage. Mia lifted her head. Gabriel explained that he had accepted the proposal because he believed Victor Vale had information about his father's death. Gabriel intended to expose the Vale family before the wedding. Mia asked why he had never told Isabella. He said Isabella knew enough to understand the engagement was political. She only believed she could make it permanent. Mia felt a quiet ache. She asked what would happen after the truth came out. Gabriel's fingers tightened against her back. He said that depended on whether Mia survived long enough to hate him for bringing her into his world. Mia told him she already hated parts of him. Gabriel almost smiled. She continued. She hated his control, his surveillance, and the way he believed fear gave him the right to decide for everyone. He asked which parts she did not hate. Mia placed her hand over his heart. She said the parts he kept hidden because they still remembered how to love. Gabriel looked at her as if she had entered a room inside him that no one else knew existed. He told her the hidden rooms were usually where bodies were buried. Mia said perhaps it was time to open the windows. The engagement gala began 2 nights later. The mansion glowed beneath hundreds of lights. Luxury vehicles moved through the gates. Politicians, actors, business leaders, and crime families filled the ballroom. The black gown stood in a private dressing room. Complete at last. Mia had created it as a memorial display, but Isabella had announced that she intended to wear it during the final dance. Gabriel immediately refused. Isabella smiled and said, wearing the Moretti family fabric would demonstrate unity. Mia understood the cruelty behind the request. Isabella wanted to wear the final words of Gabriel's father while standing beside the man she intended to control. Gabriel ordered the gown locked inside the dressing room. He assigned 2 guards to protect it. Then an urgent message drew him to a meeting below the mansion. Mia remained near the ballroom, preparing the memorial exhibit. Isabella entered with 2 women from her family. She dismissed the guards using a forged order carrying Gabriel's signature. Mia saw them moving toward the dressing room and followed. By the time she arrived, Isabella had removed the gown from its case. She held a glass of champagne in one hand. Mia told her to put it back. Isabella asked whether Mia believed one night in Gabriel's bed had made her part of the family. Mia said the dress did not belong to either of them. It belonged to the memory of a dead man. Isabella looked at the hidden lining. She had already discovered the embroidery. She said memories were dangerous because they convinced powerful men to choose weakness. Mia stepped toward the gown. The women beside Isabella grabbed her arms. Isabella poured alcohol across the silk. Mia screamed. Isabella touched a candle to the train. Flames rose instantly. Mia fought free and reached into the fire. She caught the fabric with both hands, but the heat burned her palms. One of the women pushed her backward. The alarm began to ring. Guards entered. Isabella ordered them to arrest Mia. She claimed Mia had burned the gown after Gabriel refused to leave his engagement. The guards hesitated. Isabella showed them the forged order again. They pulled Mia toward the ballroom. Guests gathered as smoke moved beneath the chandeliers. The burning gown was dragged into the open to prevent the fire from spreading. That was when Gabriel entered. He saw the flames. He saw Mia bleeding between the guards. He saw Isabella standing near the fireplace. Then he found the golden letters inside the ashes. The ballroom waited for his judgment. Gabriel rose with the burned silk in his hand. He looked at Mia. She told him Isabella had found the message and destroyed it. Isabella denied everything. She claimed Mia had become unstable after Gabriel refused to cancel the engagement. Victor Vale stepped forward. He said the designer should be removed before the scandal damaged both families. Gabriel walked toward Mia. The guards released her before he reached them. He took her injured hands. The tenderness in his touch shocked the entire ballroom. Then Gabriel looked at Isabella. He asked where she had found the forged order. Isabella's face changed. Gabriel revealed that his signatures contained a small mark known only to him and Marco. The order did not contain it. He asked again. Isabella looked toward Victor. Gabriel followed her gaze. Victor ordered his men to close the ballroom doors. Moretti guards raised their weapons. Guests screamed and moved away from the center. Victor said the engagement would proceed. He warned Gabriel that refusing would destroy everything Lorenzo had built. Gabriel held up the burned message. He said Lorenzo had warned him about a betrayal. Victor laughed. He claimed Lorenzo had become weak before his death. He had discovered that Marco and Victor were using Moretti shipping routes without permission. Lorenzo planned to expose them and cancel the alliance. Gabriel looked toward the upper balcony. Marco stood there without handcuffs. 2 guards lay unconscious behind him. Marco held a gun against the head of Gabriel's younger cousin. Luca. The truth moved through the ballroom like ice. Marco had escaped. He admitted that Lorenzo had trusted him like a brother. He said trust had made Lorenzo easy to kill. Gabriel's face revealed nothing. Only Mia felt his hand tighten around hers. Marco ordered Gabriel to release Victor and Isabella. He demanded control of 3 ports and the Moretti casino holdings. Gabriel said Marco would leave the mansion with nothing. Marco pressed the gun harder against Luca's head. Mia looked at the burned lining. A final section of fabric remained folded beneath the ashes. She remembered the hidden pocket she had sewn into the dress. Inside, it was a copy of the letter. There was also something Gabriel had never seen. A small photograph found inside the old coat. The photograph showed Lorenzo standing beside Marco and Victor at the Moretti harbor on the night before his death. Numbers were written across the back. Mia had assumed they referred to fabric inventory. Now she understood they were shipping containers. She reached toward the ashes. Isabella noticed. She kicked the fabric away. Mia struck her. The ballroom erupted. Victor guards opened fire. Gabriel pulled Mia behind a marble column and covered her body. Glass shattered above them. Guests crawled toward the exits. Gabriel men returned fire. Mia saw Marco dragging Luca toward the balcony doors. She showed Gabriel the photograph. She told him the numbers might identify the container where Lorenzo had hidden evidence. Gabriel placed the photograph inside his coat. He ordered her to remain behind the column. Mia grabbed his hand. She told him not to become the man his father had feared he would become. Gabriel looked at her. She told him to choose truth before revenge. He pressed his forehead against hers. Then, he moved into the gunfire. Gabriel climbed the balcony stairs while Marco fired from above. A bullet struck Gabriel's shoulder. Mia screamed. He continued moving. Luca broke free and threw himself to the floor. Gabriel reached Marco. The 2 men crashed through the balcony railing and fell onto a long banquet table below. Marco reached for his gun. Gabriel kicked it away. He wrapped one hand around Marco's throat. Every person, still standing, watched. Gabriel could have killed him. Marco begged. He claimed Lorenzo had deserved to die because he had chosen mercy over power. Gabriel raised the gun. Mia left the column. She walked through broken glass toward him. Gabriel saw her. His hand shook. Mia did not tell him to forgive Marco. She told him not to let Marco decide what kind of man survived this night. Gabriel lowered the gun. For 1 second, relief entered Marco's face. Then Victor fired from across the ballroom. The bullet was aimed at Gabriel. Mia saw it first. She stepped between them. Gabriel caught her as the bullet struck her side. The world stopped. Gabriel lowered Mia to the floor. Blood spread across the black dress she wore. His face changed. Every trace of restraint disappeared. He looked at Victor. Victor tried to reach the ballroom doors. Gabriel fired once. Victor fell. Isabella screamed. Marco attempted to crawl toward his weapon. Gabriel's men surrounded him. Gabriel did not look away from Mia. He pressed both hands against her wound. He ordered her to stay awake. Mia struggled to breathe. She touched his face with blood-covered fingers. She told him the letter had survived. Gabriel's voice broke. He said he did not care about the letter. Mia tried to smile. She reminded him that he had asked who destroyed the final words of his father. Gabriel lifted her into his arms. Blood covered his white shirt. He carried her through the ballroom while armed men cleared a path. Black vehicles surrounded the mansion outside. Snow fell around them. Gabriel held Mia tighter. He told her the words of his father were not the final words that mattered. He begged her not to make him hear hers. Mia lost consciousness before they reached the hospital. For 14 hours, Gabriel sat outside the operating room. He still wore the blood-stained shirt. No one dared ask him to change. Marco was imprisoned inside a private Moretti facility. Isabella had been arrested by federal agents after evidence from the numbered container exposed money laundering, weapons trafficking, political corruption, and the plot to murder Lorenzo. The war between the families ended before it could begin. None of it mattered to Gabriel. He remained outside the operating room with the burned piece of silk in one hand. At dawn, A surgeon approached him. The bullet had damaged Mia's liver, but she had survived the operation. Gabriel entered the recovery room alone. Mia lay beneath white blankets. Machines measured every fragile heartbeat. Gabriel sat beside her. He placed the burned fabric on the table. Then he took her hand. He told her that he had spent his entire life believing love created weakness. His father had tried to warn him. Mia had tried to show him. He had still waited until she was bleeding in his arms before understanding. Gabriel lowered his head. He told her he could destroy every enemy in the world, but he could not command her to wake. His voice became unsteady. He asked her to return because he did not know who he was without the woman who stood in front of bullets and told him to become better. Mia's fingers moved inside his hand. Gabriel raised his head. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked at his blood-stained shirt. She whispered that he looked terrible. A broken laugh escaped him. He touched her cheek. Mia asked whether the letter had survived. Gabriel said it had. Then he told her Marco and the Vale family would never threaten her again. Mia asked what had happened to Isabella. Gabriel said she would spend many years inside a prison without silk gowns or private guards. Mia closed her eyes. Gabriel thought she had fallen asleep. Then she asked whether the engagement was over. Gabriel leaned closer. He said there had never been a real engagement. Mia opened one eye. She told him that was a convenient explanation. Gabriel kissed her hand. He said he would spend the rest of his life proving it. Mia remained in the hospital for 3 weeks. Gabriel attended every meeting from the chair beside her bed. Politicians, lawyers, and armed captains entered the room and found the feared leader of the Moretti family cutting fruit for a woman who criticized the size of each piece. He never appeared embarrassed. When Mia was released, a line of black vehicles waited outside. Gabriel carried her through the hospital entrance, even though she insisted she could walk. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Mia asked whether he intended to create another scandal. Gabriel said he intended to end one. He stopped before the reporters. With Mia still in his arms, he announced that the alliance between the Moretti and Vale families had ended. Then he said Mia Collins had saved his life, protected the legacy of his father, and exposed the people responsible for his murder. A reporter asked whether Mia was his new fiancée. Mia looked at Gabriel. Gabriel looked at her. He said Mia was no replacement for anyone. She was the only woman he had ever chosen. The photograph appeared across every newspaper the next morning. Mia expected the attention to damage her studio. Instead, orders arrived from women across the country. Women who had seen a plus-size designer carried through a crowd by a man who looked at her as if she were more valuable than his empire. Gabriel purchased the building containing Mia's studio. She forced him to sell it back to her for $1. He agreed only after she promised to install reinforced windows and accept 2 guards outside. Mia refused 4 guards. Gabriel considered that a compromise. 6 months later, the Moretti mansion hosted another gala. There was no engagement announcement. There was no political alliance. The event raised money for the same children's hospital Elena Moretti had supported. At the center of the ballroom stood a new black gown. Mia had recreated the original design using restored silk from the Moretti collection. The hidden message remained inside the lining. Beside it stood a framed copy of the complete letter from Lorenzo. Gabriel entered the ballroom wearing a black suit. The room became quiet. He walked directly toward Mia. She wore a deep red gown she had designed for her own body. The fabric embraced every curve she had once been told to hide. Gabriel stopped before her. He did not care that hundreds of people were watching. He touched her waist. Mia asked whether he approved of the dress. Gabriel said he had been quietly admiring the work of the designer. She smiled. She reminded him what had happened the last time his fiancée became jealous of her work. Gabriel said he no longer had a fiancée. Mia raised one eyebrow. Gabriel lowered himself to one knee. The ballroom gasped. Mia stared at him. He opened a small black box. Inside was a ring, created from the gold buttons of his father's old coat. Gabriel said Lorenzo had once written that power could protect a man from his enemies, but only love could protect him from himself. He admitted that Mia had protected him before he understood he needed saving. He said he would never ask her to obey him. He would never promise her a peaceful life. Enemies would still exist. Danger would still follow his name. He would still make mistakes because darkness had shaped too much of him to disappear in one night. But he promised that she would never stand alone inside that darkness. He asked her to become his wife. Mia looked at the ring. Then she looked at the feared men. Wealthy women, armed guards, and powerful families surrounding them. For most of her life, people had expected her to make herself smaller. Gabriel had never asked her to disappear. Even when he tried to control the danger around her, he had always seen her courage, her anger, her beauty, her truth. Mia placed her hand in his. She said yes. Gabriel slid the ring onto her finger. Then he stood and kissed her before the entire city. The crowd applauded. Mia felt his hand tighten around her waist. She whispered that he could stop looking so possessive. Gabriel told her he could stop many things. That was not one of them. Later, after the guests had left, Mia found Gabriel alone near the memorial gown. He was reading the letter again. She moved beside him. Gabriel placed one arm around her. He said he had spent years searching for the final words of his father. Mia rested her head against his shoulder. She told him perhaps the words had never been final. Perhaps they had only been waiting for someone to continue them. Gabriel looked at her. He touched the ring on her finger. Together, they turned toward the tall windows. Snow covered the estate. The black vehicles remained beyond the gates. Guards would watch the roads. Danger had not vanished from their world. It never would. Yet inside the quiet ballroom, beneath the golden chandeliers, the burned dress was no longer the symbol of something destroyed. It had become proof that even after fire, betrayal, and blood, the most important words could survive. Gabriel lowered his mouth to Mia's forehead. She closed her eyes. For the first time since the death of his father, Gabriel Moretti did not feel protected by power. He felt protected by love. And for the first time in her life, Mia Collins did not feel like a woman standing at the edge of someone else's world. She stood at the center of it, not hidden, not diminished, not chosen because she had survived humiliation. Chosen because she had walked into the darkness of a dangerous man, found the heart he had buried there, and refused to let anyone burn it again.